No long intro. Market analysis. Now, for this week's video, we have one of my favorite Bible verses that I came across a while back, and I find it to be quite refreshing in my own personal life the first time I heard this. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9 says, "What has been is what will be, and what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun." Now, at that specific time when I first read this verse, it made so much sense to me. I was frustrated and I felt shame in myself and in my trading because I would miss so many setups, whether it was fear of losing money, and when I didn't take the setups, I would still fear like I could not get rid of it. But as time went on, week in, week out, I realized these things repeat. So what's the point of me being frustrated? What's the point of me being mad at myself if I know these setups aren't new? They may show up in different shapes and patterns, different times, but in general, they repeat. Now, I had an interaction with my mentor, Michael, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago on Twitter. And I actually reached out to him and I asked, what are your top trading books, your favorite trading books? And he actually said an answer that surprised me because I wasn't expecting that. I actually expected him to mention books like Larry Williams' How I Made $1 Million Trading Commodities, mainly because he's mentioned that to him that's a great read. And I still haven't read it, so I can't give you guys any insight on that. I've watched lots of Larry's interviews, but I haven't read the book yet, so I'll make a point to actually order it tonight after we're done with this video. Now, let's take a look. Reached out to him on Twitter, and I asked him this question. Let's see. Here's his response. It says, Book of Proverbs, Book of Psalms, Book of Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, and all the words in red. Now, I wasn't expecting that answer. And now, for me personally, I actually remember I replied to this specific reply of his. So this is me here asking him the question. So what's your top 5 favorite trading books? So I actually mentioned top 5. And he gave me 4 books from the Bible. And he said all words in red. And this is something we can actually talk more about in future videos because he mentioned how this will actually go over most people's heads. And I remember replying to this and saying, well, Proverbs, Book of Proverbs is my number 1 and Ecclesiastes is my number 2. Book of Psalms and Song of Solomon, they're good too. They're probably not my top 5 personally. And this quote itself means so much to me because day in and day out, there's always a setup that seems to be evading me. It seems to escape me. Whether I'm 5 minutes late to the chart or an hour late, there's this one great setup I always seem to think, oh man, I should have been in that move. When in reality, it's nothing new. These things repeat. So now I don't fear missing out anymore. Not at all. I just let it go. I'm so okay with letting it go sometimes. It even scares me. Sometimes I forget this is how I'm supposed to feed myself. If I don't actually trade, I will not be able to feed myself. So I always make it a point, all right, even though these setups that you miss mean nothing to you in the long run, at least put some effort and actually make sure you're on time during the kill zones. Now, let's look a little bit forward. For this week's market analysis, we'll be talking a lot about seasonal tendencies. And seasonal tendencies, more specifically when it comes to the dollar, the euro dollar, and the dollar CAD. I'm more specifically only really trade the euro dollar. I'm looking to trade the euro CAD, dollar CAD pretty soon due to the seasonal tendencies. And we'll actually take a look at that in a minute. Let's scroll down. Let's see what the seasonal tendency is for the dollar. And personally, myself, I won't take the time to explain how important seasonal tendencies are. ICT did a great job at that himself. And here is the dollar index, 35-year seasonal tendency from 1985 to 2019. So a bit out of date by a couple years. And I know some of you guys actually want to get your hands on this, and you may not know where it's actually go to get this. I see mentioned the dude's name. I think his name's maybe Chris Henry. Might have messed that one up, but there's a Telegram chat that has all the seasonal tendencies from the softs, the meats, and the how do you say it? The metals, futures, currencies, commodities, all of it. And I'll actually put the link in the description box so you guys can get access to that. And it's completely free. So I know some of you guys may not be able to afford the actual subscription for this stuff. So I would do you guys this favor. I think a while back, maybe a year or 2 years ago, one of my buddies on Twitter actually shared this with me. So it makes complete sense for me to do the same for some of you guys that actually need it. So this is the chart for the dollar index. And right now, if you look, we're in October. Look what's happening here. Over 35 plus years, there's always been a tendency for the dollar to make a medium to long-term low right here in the middle of October. Now, right now it's currently October 10th. So what are you guys expecting right now? I know what I'm expecting. Now, let's look at the seasonal for the euro dollar. And after we'll actually take a look at the charts themselves. October. We're not looking at all the other ones. There's lots of seasonal tendencies here, but we're specifically in October. Look at this. We're expecting some type of high around this week, and in my opinion, I think it might have been formed last week. Let's look at the Canadian dollar. Let's crunch this here. Here it is. Now remember, this is the Canadian dollar futures, so you'll likely have to invert this to actually get the correct price action. So don't think the Canadian dollar is going to, fall here. It's actually quite the opposite. So we're expecting the actual Canadian dollar itself to create a medium term high right here in October also, while expecting the dollar to create a medium to long term low right here in October heading into the new year. So we're expecting lower prices from the Canadian dollar from October all the way till probably end of December. And same thing is said for the dollar itself. Now, you guys, no need to worry. You actually get the link from the description box, and you'll be able to find all kinds of seasonal tendencies. I mean, so many markets have seasonal tendencies. You guys will likely not know which ones to pick. I have my favorites, and maybe I'll share some of those with you guys later on throughout the next few weeks. But for now, I'll share the Telegram chat where you have literally all of them, and they're for free. Although it is quite a dilemma now whether you guys are okay with taking someone's hard work for free, just taking a look at the seasonal tendencies. It's not going to hurt the gentleman. ICT's a big fan of him, but if you guys can't afford it, I'm completely fine, with the giving you guys access to it, and it's not completely updated. It's not 2022, so I didn't pay a subscription and then take his stuff and started selling it. So this stuff is common knowledge for a few years now. I've had my hands on this Telegram chat for a while now, and I do suggest you guys, if you're going to join the Telegram chat and use his seasonal tendencies, don't try to sell it, and don't try to make it seem like it's yours when it's not. So please don't do that. And if you want to share with a buddy of yours that it could be useful to them, go ahead. That's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite and tell you guys don't share it or whatever. Just be mindful of exactly who you give it to, and be a good judge of character. So I'm assuming you guys are responsible individuals, and you'll be able to actually use the seasonal tendencies properly, and not prostitute the concepts and start posting them on your Instagram, how do you call it, stories, and TikTok and stuff of that nature. So just please be respectful and don't make me look bad for sharing this with you guys. Now, back to our original mind map, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Actually, probably my second favorite book of all time, right after the Bible, of course. And in book 4, he mentioned something. Marcus Aurelius said, adopt a systematic study of the way all things change into one another. Pay constant attention to this aspect of nature and train yourself in it. Now, it's very, very important for you guys to actually pay attention to what's happening in price by using seasonal tendencies and actually marking up your charts. It may seem pointless usually because you have to erase all the trend lines and rectangle boxes you put in your charts. But if you journal this stuff, if you take screenshots of all of them, if you actually adopt a systematic study of price action itself, and you actually notice, you'll actually realize how all things change from one bearish order block to a bullish order block, back to a premium, back to a discount, lingers at equilibrium, goes back to a premium, back to equilibrium, and back to the discount. This is how price action is booked. It's up, down, up, down, up, down. That's it. And if you actually adopt a systematic approach and you actually study all these things from one PD array to the next while using seasonal tendencies and ICT's concepts, and you train yourself in them, you'll be much better off. You'll be a much better student, and usually a much better trader when you do so. Now, let's do exactly that, and let's actually take a look at the charts themselves. Now let's delete all this. Start this bad boy from scratch. Now we have the euro dollar. We'll go into a weekly chart. Now, earlier I mentioned how it's likely that I think that October high that's likely to happen because of the seasonal tendency. I mentioned that it's likely already happened last week, and that candle itself is exactly why I said that. And last week, my bias earlier on throughout the week was bullish as this candle was trading up into this bearish order block. And after it did, my bias shifted. I was expecting lower prices. So you'll see most of my limits. So I had, I think, 2 buy limits and 2 sell limits. And they were actually in accordance to this move itself. Now let's mark this up. Have this fair value gap in here. I find market charts to be quite soothing. It's one of the things I enjoy most about trading itself. And here's our bearish order block. Now, one thing I'm pointing, I hope you guys notice, is this. I would love to see this turn into a swing high. Your classic three bar pattern here. Here's our high, lower high to the left of it, and lower high to the right. So for this to actually be completely valid, I'd love to see this low taken. The minute this low is violated, man, this thing is a one-way train to Doomsdayville. We're not seeing higher prices. We're not going to see higher prices from the euro dollar anytime soon, or at least that's not what I'm expecting. We saw the same thing up here. That's just to show you guys, there's nothing new under the sun. These things repeat, and that's one of the things ICT did with his logo that evaded a lot of us. It's always been an enigma. We're very mysterious. We don't really know what it means, what it stands for, but when you look at it, you see it's these fractal patterns, one inside each other, smaller pieces into a bigger whole. And it's all the same. It may look different in size and shapes and all, but it is all the same. That's the same thing we're seeing here too. Maybe let's not use this. It's not clean enough for me. But this one specifically, notice how this candle trades into the fair value gap inside the order block, and it forms a swing high. Lower high to the left of it and lower high to the right of it. And never did this even think about going back up there. Honestly, it doesn't need to. And it's the same thing up here. After price trades and fills in that fair value gap or liquidity void, really, there's no point. It never even went up there. Just traded lower. No, it didn't even look back. And I'm hoping, I'd love to see that same kind of price action right here, especially with the seasonal tendency in play here. The tendency for the euro dollar to make a high mid-October and start trading lower for the next 3 months or so. That's our quarterly shift. And keep in mind, guys, we're in a bearish market. That's the perfect time to use this kind of seasonal tendency. Although we know it's likely to make a high in the mid-October, are you confident in buying the euro dollar in October? I'm not. But I'm way more confident in shorting this thing because I know overall it's a bearish market and we're using the bearish seasonal tendency. Now, let's drop to a daily chart. So keep in mind this low of, let's see right here, 95,358. Let's put this right here. This will be my bias. My bias won't change until this is traded to you, most likely. It will take something significant, because this is a weekly chart. It will take something significant to actually change my mind on that. It may take a week or two for price to breach this low, but I do hope it takes a week or two. That way I have a bias. Be looking for lower prices for a couple days. That'll definitely help make things easier on me, not having to find a bias every other day. Nothing significant here on the daily chart. It is Monday. interested to see how price reacts to this. Actually quite interested in how price reacts to this. I'd like to see it retrace back up into this a bearish order block before heading lower. In all likelihood, that will probably happen. It's very rare where price just straight and just goes straight for the lows like that, especially when it comes to it's Monday night, currently 10:35. So we're expecting that London open to either make the weekly low or weekly high. And as I'm looking at it, I have no idea which one he's going to make, really. So I'm definitely excited to see what London has to offer here. Let's drop to a 4-hour chart. See if we can find something any bit clearer. Okay. Now we're talking. So this is our daily order block in here. This is our 4-hour order block. Quite curious to see how price reacts from here. And this is looking like an ideal market maker sell model, but it's likely not to give me an entry. So I'm very intrigued to see what this does. So I'm very excited about London. I know this might be boring to some of you, but this is really how I look at price action. Not actually giving you a trade or anything like that, so don't get the wrong ideas, guys. Right, market's being held tight right here. So if you guys are familiar with the central bank dealers range, I bet you guys would love to see me put that to work right now. So we can start projecting, the possible highs or lows of the markets. But I will do that on my own time. Don't want you guys doing anything stupid and foolish. Alright, so I'm actually very excited. So I have some charting to do myself ahead of London. And I won't do it right now. Just for teasing you guys. But let's look at the CAD. Remember, the seasonal tendency is for the CAD to make a low mid-October. And this candle last week. And you see how I had marked this up before our video. I was expecting this last week. Although I wanted it to trade a bit deeper. I would have loved to see it trade right to the midpoint of consequent encouragement of this liquidity void right here. It didn't give me that, and it doesn't have to. I'm completely fine with this. Now, let's actually look. These highs, what are they? I'd say they're the patented equal highs, relative equal highs. That's significant. That's telling me the dollar may have lots of room to move higher, especially with the election coming up in November. I'm not sure if they'll use that to just wick price in there and bring it right back, but this is a weekly chart and this is significant. If markets are likely to trade up to here, I mean, you have a bias for a while now, for the next couple of weeks. And if you put together your weekly profiles really well, you can actually find really nice setups in here. Although I don't necessarily like the CAD all that much myself, I think I'll have to pay more attention to it because of the seasonal tendency at play. And we've seen this has been a bullish market for a while now. Since, let's see here. May 2021. From this low to this high. Let's take a look. Market's just leaving equilibrium and heading higher. Yeah. Let's look at a daily chart. I don't like the dollar CAD because it's not very symmetrical, you know? I typically like charts that are aesthetically pleasing to my eyes and are very symmetrical, but this isn't. I mean, this looks ugly, honestly, you guys. It's very ugly. And you guys can actually see here, if we drop to a 4-hour chart, this is likely a relative equal highs in here. So what are you guys expecting in London if we do have relative equal highs? Let's see. And here's that drop into the consequent encouragement of that fair value gap on the weekly chart. And you see that drop itself was inside a 4-hour order block. So would it be reasonable for me to expect price to trade to the consequent encouragement, which will be all the way down here somewhere, when I know there's a bullish order block in here? It's asking too much. And when I saw this, I realized it was unlikely that price was going to do that, and it would likely head higher. Although I expected it to trade to the mean threshold of the actual order block itself, so somewhere around here, it didn't give me that. So traded right on top of it right here and then started to head higher, which is completely fine. So we have relative equal highs, which is one of my favorite things to see. It's literally my favorite thing I picked up from my CT. And price is already up there. So what I'd like to see is that New York Open, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'd like to see price trade lower. Trade lower and give me a chance to get long. So hopefully creating the low of the week, or at least the low of the day, and then seeing price trade higher. So open, high, low, and close. So I'd like to see from the open, 12 a.m. price trades lower to hopefully a discount, to a discount array, and I'll get long and taking price above these relative equal highs. And ultimately, I wouldn't be holding for the weekly relative equal highs, but you know that's where the bias is. And this is a nice actual market maker buy model in here. I personally don't like them, mainly because I can't trade them that well. I've tried; they're not my thing specifically. I know guys who are really good at them. So let's see. Oh man, price is already up there. Yeah, look at that. This is price action from, I think, last week. That's the central bank dealers range. That was my protraction. I was expecting price to trade into this fair value gap so I could go long in here. It would have been a really nice move to capture all this. Although I say I'm not very good at market maker buy models, but after the left side has been printed out, it's pretty easy to spot and see, but my entries are always off in them, so that's why I don't like them. I can see them clearly, but look at this. It never gave me a chance, and I'm completely fine with that. And if price keeps heading like this, I won't get a chance to go long either during London tonight, which is fine. I'll just find another setup. So higher prices on the CAD. And we'll look at the dollar itself. Why not? Remember the seasonal tendency. Dollar likely to make a low mid-October. Now, does it need to be mid-October? Definitely not. This happened last week. This is a swing low. There's the lowest low. There's a higher low to the left of it and higher low to the right of it. This is your classic swing low. And I'd love to see this thing start heading higher and creating a new dealing range. Because once this takes off, and let's say at 119, if price ever gets there, we'll be able to take our fib from this low to a high up in here and measure it. This is likely to happen, guys. Don't know the amount of time, but this high is my target for the next until it's traded to. This will be my target. Now, this could happen this week. Price could easily trade into that, or it could come up here and come up short, and the following week trades lower a little bit and then take out this high. That's what I'm looking for right now. And I would love to see this candle itself actually just take out this high and hopefully closing higher. And what I'm looking for is some kind of fair value gap in here. A weekly fair value gap like we've seen with this. See how in this price takes out this high while leaving the gap in here, and then price trades into it and it stabs into the order block, this bullish order block, and then quickly retraces back up, and now it's picking up again. It's unlikely that it'll happen twice in a row like that, but if it does, I'll be a very happy man. So higher prices on the dollar. Let's drop lower chart. We have a bullish order block in here on the daily chart. I'm very curious to see how they use this. Do they leave the highs, trade back into the order block, and then take price higher? Or do they take out the high and then come back into internal liquidity? Who knows? Stay tuned to find out, guys. There it is. Classic market maker buy model again. But do you think you can get an entry in here? I mean, you don't trade the dollar anyways, but this is just, I don't know. I just can't trade market maker models like that. They're not aesthetically pleasing. They're not easy for me to actually find entries in. So higher prices on the dollar, lower prices on the euro dollar, and higher prices on dollar CAD. The pound dollar hasn't been very clean, but I'm still looking at it. But for time, we'll not be taking a look at that itself too. Now let's get back to our mind map. Remember, guys, this stuff is not new. Remember, what has been is what will be, and what has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. These seasonal tendencies, price action, those swing highs that are forming, those swing lows that are forming, we've seen it before time and time again. If you've been studying under Michael for a while now, how many examples, how many videos have you guys watched? I've watched hundreds at this point, and it's the same thing. These things repeat. No point of having the fear of missing out. There's no point. These things come around. They are not new. Not at all. And remember, adopt a systematic study of the way all things change into one another. Pay constant attention to this aspect of nature and train yourself in it. Remove nature. Insert price action. Pay constant attention to this aspect of price action and train yourself in it. It's exactly what I'm doing here. Exactly what you should be doing. Notice I didn't go into a 5-minute, 15-minute chart trying to frame out trades, but we're just looking at price action. Take the time, take the screenshots, write notes, journal. Your entries, your exits, your losing trades, your winners, everything. A systematic approach. If you want to be successful in this, it can't be random. You will not randomly become successful trading. That's far from it. I mean, if someone can do that, I'll listen. I'll definitely listen. But in all likelihood, that'll be a unicorn being successful trading randomly. That just doesn't happen. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, in today's mind map. And in the future, I'll be thinking about sharing the mind maps themselves. But for now, I'll keep the catalog myself, and I'll share it later on down the line. And remember, in the description box, I'll put the link to the Telegram chat where you can find all the seasonal tendencies. I mean, literally all of them. I mean, every market out there. So it's powerful stuff. And if you don't know how to properly use seasonal tendencies, ICT did a great job at that, and core content. So you can take a look at that. Has lots of videos about some of his favorites, and you'll find all of those actually on the Telegram chat too. The seasonal tendencies he mentioned in his video. So with that being said, use it properly, guys. Don't embarrass me. Don't do anything foolish with the concepts. The guy worked very hard, putting these things together. So be mindful, be respectful, and with that being said, good trading and good luck.